So welcome to our February talk with, Martin McAllister. I had to swallow there. Before I get to his bio, I'd like to say welcome back. Hope you will come to our next talks, which on March 18th is Rebecca McMacken. If you've never heard her, you can get a preview by going on to TED Talks. She gave a phenomenal TED Talk about the Brooklyn Bridge Park, and I imagine she'll be talking about that for us too. She is now with the American Horticultural Society and is a program associate for the Harvard Divinity School's Thinking with Plants and Fungi initiative, which I have to say is an intriguing title. So the park, this park is 1.3 miles of shoreline of the East River in New York City, and it was falling apart, and they created something amazing. So I imagine she will talk about that. Our Arbor Day event is on, and that is March 18th at 1 o'clock. Our Arbor Day event is Wednesday, April 8th at 1 o'clock, and that is Mike Tidwell, who's the author of The Lost Trees of Willow Avenue. And it's interesting, it's a story of climate and how it affected one American street with their trees. And he is the founder of the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. If you've not visited the Chesapeake Bay, different associations, the Chesapeake Bay was dying, and grassroots organizations grew to save the oyster industry and et cetera. And his was a grassroots nonprofit organization dedicated to raising awareness of global climate change in the Chesapeake Bay region and nationally. I also want to say thank you to those of you who brought snacks, which are always appreciated. Stephanie, Pam, Lisa, Vicky, and Sherry, and if I've forgotten you, raise your hand and say your name out loud. See? And is anyone going to do that? No. Thank you, as always, to Paige for coordinating and Josh for making sure that our equipment works. And I shouldn't have said that, should I? No. I should not have said that. But, oh well. We'll just pretend I did not. So, on to Martin. So, if you're wondering what Scioto Brush Creek is, there is some information in the back, which I'm sure Martin will refer to sometime during his talk. So please take a look at that. But Scioto Brush Creek is a tributary to the lower Scioto and drains portions of Adams and Scioto Counties, all the way down south in Ohio. Known for its exceptional warm water habitat and virtually intact fish fauna, this stream was recently designated as a State Scenic River in Ohio. Martin's presentation will tell you the story, so that's where I'm going to end on that. But how he created the Friends of the Scioto Brush Creek organization. Now, who is Martin McAllister? He is the founding board member and past president of the Friends of Scioto Brush Creek Incorporated and has worked in conservation for over 40 years. Much of his career was with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources as a naturalist, land manager, and administrator. And at one point he was at Houston Woods and worked with the bird sanctuary there, which if you've never been there, it is quite cool. Martin now serves as the Community Engagement Specialist for the Nature Conservancy 23,000-acre Edge of Appalachia Nature Preserve in Adams County. Please welcome Martin to the podium. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Wow, thank you very much. It feels so formal to be up here. Figure out all the technology. I have a thing to advance the slides, and I have a thing to talk to you. And if I get them confused, I don't know what's going to happen. But I'll try not to do that. I'm just a country boy. I grew up in Scioto County. My family has lived there since 1797. So I'm the 7th generation that's lived in this little valley where I live. So my grandkids are the 9th generation. I still live in the same old house that 6 generations of my family have lived in. We fixed it up a little bit, but it's still the same old house where my father was born and all his siblings were born. So I feel really rooted there. My ancestors cut down the virgin forest and turned it into cornfields. And I've spent 40 years as a conservationist trying to roll a little bit of that back and realize some of the mistakes that we made, correct some of those things. And it still feels really weird to say 40 years because I still feel like young and ready to go. And I've been in this business over 42 years now. It's kind of scary. So I just really want to talk to you all a little bit about this little group that I helped start 25 years ago called the Friends of Scioto Brush Creek. A little bit about river conservation, and mostly about our story. It's like, how did we get started? What were we trying to do, and what has transpired over that time? So that's where we're going to go. And I always like to put my thank yous up right away. And I'm sure you'll recognize the names of some of these folks that help contribute images. So Dave and Laura Hughes. Anybody know Dave and Laura? Oh my gosh, they're amazing. John Howard, I know you know Jim McCormick. He's probably been here and talked about 150 times. These other folks you don't know because they're just locals and they're members of our group, but they like to take pictures, including my daughter, Autumn. Now, we can't talk about river conservation without showing this photo, right? Everybody has seen this photo, but you might not know the full story behind it. So first off, what is this? What is it? The Cuyahoga River. And what is it doing on this beautiful day? It's burning. It's burning. Did you know rivers are not supposed to burn? They're not really supposed to just spontaneously combust and erupt into flames and burn up ships. By the way, the ship was burned up and destroyed. But what you might not know, well, let me back up a little bit. So when was this? When did this happen? Oh, who said a bunch of times? True. Many people don't know that. They think it happened once, like in the 60s, and that triggered this great environmental movement, which is partially true. But no, it caught fire over a dozen times over a century, from like the Civil War up until the 1960s. And people didn't even think anything about it. It was just the price you pay for industry, for being able to manufacture things and have things. But this particular time, when this photo was used, was in 1969, the last time it caught fire, which wasn't the worst time. In fact, the press that took place on this event in 1969 didn't even have any photos of it because it was just a minor thing. They had to go back and get photos from the 1952 fire, which that's what this photo is from 1952. No photos are known to exist of the 1969 fire. But that's the one that really triggered people in the country. But here's something you probably do not know. How in the world did Ted Kennedy have anything to do with this? What happened to Ted Kennedy to make him wear a neck brace? Chappaquiddick. Okay, when did that happen? July of 1969. So whoops. Did I turn something off here? I think I hit power. Maybe I turn it back on. I did, I hit the wrong button.
That's okay.
I hit the top button.
That's okay. Here, let's go back.
See, I told you I get these things confused.
Okay.
Josh is on it. All right, now try this. Yes. Okay, so Chappaquiddick was in July of 69. Time magazine wrote about it the next month, in August. But just 4 weeks before Chappaquiddick, is when the Scioto River caught fire in 1969. Some reported there's a story about it. It was buried in Time magazine, but everybody ran out and bought Time magazine because of Chappaquiddick. Suddenly, a river catching fire was a national issue. So, but you didn't know that little link there, did you? Who's this fella? Man, you guys are on it. I can't surprise you with anything. Carl Stokes, and who was he? Mayor of Cleveland. First black mayor of Cleveland, first black mayor of any major city in the United States. Who was his brother? Lewis. Man, I should have brought prizes. I could have been throwing t-shirts out. You guys are on it. So yeah, so Carl Stokes, mayor of Cleveland, brother was Lewis, he was in Congress. Carl was an environmentalist. He was also very savvy with using the press. He knew how to turn a story into action. And the next thing you know, we had people in Congress talking about the fact that, our rivers really shouldn't catch on fire. We should do something about this. And within a very short period of time, a tragedy like this helped launch federal legislation to create the EPA, which was done in 1970, right, Hope? 70? Do you hate it when you're in a crowd and people talk about legislation and they ask you like you should be a dictionary and just remember every single thing? I think it was 1970. And then in 1972 was the passage of the Clean Water Act. That was under President Nixon. Nixon actually vetoed it. Did you know that? Yeah, Congress passed it. He vetoed it. Sent it back to Congress. They overrode his veto and created the Clean Water Act, one of the greatest pieces of legislation for rivers ever. Needless to say, our rivers don't catch fire anymore, largely because of the Clean Water Act. So, we've come a long way since then. We've cleaned up a lot of rivers. This particular one used to be, large sections of this stream were essentially dead. They didn't have any life at all in them. Who's going to guess what stream that is? You're on fire. Scioto Brush. No. Give your t-shirt back. Raccoon Creek. Raccoon Creek, which was designated as State Scenic River just a little over a year ago. But Raccoon was so polluted, especially from acid mine drainage, that there were large sections of it that didn't have any fish or life in it at all. And some portions of it looked beautiful blue, and it just looked like the Caribbean, but it was so acidic nothing could live in it. Long story short, through a lot of effort by a lot of people, private groups as well as government, Raccoon has cleaned up a lot, and it actually was designated as a State Scenic River in November of 24, because Scioto Brush was a year later. And I'm a little jealous because they actually have like 2 more species of fish now known to occur in this stream than Scioto Brush does, which is just unbelievable, the amount of recovery that's taken place on Raccoon Creek. That's true. It's really long in it, like 120 some miles, yeah. So we've come a long way in river conservation and water quality, but we still have a lot of issues. We have harmful algal blooms to deal with. I'm sure you're all aware of that. And just the basics of just like beverage containers. Can you believe how many beverage containers wind up in our rivers? People toss them out their car window. They land on the roadside. They float down the ditch. The ditch goes to an ephemeral stream, a perennial stream, a larger tributary. Next thing you know, they're in the river. And if you've spent any time along big rivers, like I do, I go to Portsmouth a couple times a week, where the Scioto and the Ohio come together, and there are acres of plastic. Yeah, it's not as simple as just going out with a handful of people and picking it up and putting it in trash bags. You would need heavy equipment because there's acres of plastic, flotsam and jetsam. So lots of stuff we still need to do about our rivers. pretty sobering, right? But you know what? Don't be sobered. Be challenged. No matter what the challenge is, we can do something about it. You should never wake up and feel overwhelmed by whatever it is. I don't care what the politics is that's going on Facebook or what the environmental challenge is. When we get out of bed, we all get up and we put one foot in front of the other and we do something. We go to a meeting, we write a letter, we make a phone call, and it's just like ants building an anthill. Those ants have no idea what a mountain they're building, but they're all carrying their own grain of sand, and they put it down and they go back and they get another one. And that's what we got to do, and that's what our group wanted to do. We weren't even really a group yet. We were like half a dozen people that were in a meeting like this for another purpose, and somebody said, we should do something about Scioto Brush Creek. It's a really good creek. And wouldn't it be easier to keep it really good than to try to bring it back after it's gotten really bad? And I thought, that makes a lot of sense. It's easier to maintain a clean stream than it is to restore one, like Raccoon, that had to be brought back. So think back to when you were little. How many of you had at least one experience wading in a stream when you were a kid? Everybody, right? Did you turn over rocks and look for crayfish and salamanders and little mollusks, little bivalves? I was fascinated as a child by water striders. I called them water spiders because I didn't know what the real name was. And they looked like spiders, and they walked around on top of the water. I spent a lot of time in the creeks near my house, Jesse's Run, which is a tributary to Scioto Brush Creek. What made you fall in love with a stream? And I'm going to assume that most of you have, because when I said, how many of you played in the creek and waded, your faces lit up. You smiled. You didn't go, oh yeah, I remember my parents made me go down and wade in the creek and catch things. It was horrible. I just wanted to go back and play with my Nintendo. No, this crowd is too old for Nintendo. They made me go back home and milk the cows. That's terrible. What made you fall in love? Did you fall in love? Was it something you would want your children and grandchildren to be able to do? It's ironic to me that when you map all of the streams in the United States, they bear such a great resemblance to the circulatory system. They're like, it's just like the lifeblood of a nation pumping, right? And every artery is important, but so is every little capillary. Every river is important, but so is every tiny little tributary. And Scioto Brush Creek is on here, believe it or not. I'll try to do this without turning the screen off again. Let me get way out here where I can see where I'm at. So, here's the Ohio. Scioto Brush is this little teeny tiny squiggle right there. In fact, you're going to have to zoom in on it probably to see it. A little closer view. It's primarily located in Adams and Scioto Counties. It's on the western edge of the Allegheny Plateau, so geologically speaking, Hope and I were just talking about this back in the back earlier. Geologically speaking, it's very, very interesting. It actually begins its journey high on a ridge called Union Hill. So if you've ever traveled Route 32 between Cincinnati and Athens, that corridor, in Adams County, you go up over this huge hill and down the other side. And the top of that hill is where this stream begins, on Mississippian sandstones. But the bizarre way the geology is down there and the way the rocks tilt to the east, even though the stream starts at about 1,200 feet on Mississippian sandstone, by the time it gets all the way down to the Scioto River near Lucasville, it's still on Mississippian sandstone after traveling like 40 miles and dropping like 500 feet. The watershed's only 273 square miles, so it's really not that big. Most of it has been recognized by the Ohio EPA as what's known as exceptional warm water habitat, which is a classification that's really important. Most of that is because it is 81% forested and fewer than 9,000 people live there. I'm probably related to 8,000 of them. I wish I wasn't joking. Like I said before, it's easier to maintain a great stream than it is to restore a degraded one. And so our little group's journey, that handful of people that was talking after a meeting of the Shawnee Nature Club one day, we said, well, let's just go do something about it. What are we going to do? I don't know. Let's go pick up trash. So we did. We called out a date on a Saturday and said, anybody wants to come and help us pick up trash at the creek, we will. We met there at a particular spot where there was this big pile of driftwood and some trash snagged in it, and we spent a couple hours and we picked up trash. Well, a few more people joined the little handful because they thought, this feels good. It feels good to do something, not just talk about it, but to go out and do something. And we grew from that. We, after about a year of cleaning up other people's garbage, we had a meeting in one of the houses, one of the folks that was in our little group, and we sort of had a little strategy session about what it was we were actually going to do. And the first thing we did was recognize that it's almost impossible to work with adults. Adults are already set in their ways. They know what they want. They know what's right. And you really can't hardly communicate to them about new things. It's difficult. You can, but it's difficult. So we decided we were going to play the long game, and we were going to work really hard to reach out to young people. And we also formalized our mission at the time, and we labored for hours over this little statement to maintain and improve the water quality of Scioto Brush Creek through education, awareness, and involvement of the local residents. And the three key words there is education, awareness, and involvement. We wanted to make sure that we were actively doing things in these three areas. So, also at that same meeting, we recognized the importance of education, and we decided that we were going to start somehow, we didn't know how yet, we were going to organize educational events for local students. The primary school district in the Watershed is Northwest Local School District, headquartered near McDermott. We talked about it for a while, and we realized that we should really focus on fifth graders. Any idea why we chose fifth graders? Fifth graders because they're big enough to wade out into moving water without getting carried away. You don't want first graders being washed downstream. And they're not old enough yet to be distracted by the opposite sex. Once they get to seventh grade, you lose them for about a whole year. So we focused on fifth grade, and we decided that we would do very structured educational events at the creek on a specific day. We would invite the class to come out, and we would remove every possible barricade to that. We offered to pay the schools for the cost of the transportation. We offered to feed the teachers and the bus drivers. We made all the copies for all the kids, so the teachers didn't have to make any copies. We made copies of the waivers. We made copies of reminder slips that they got to tuck into the backpacks of all the kids. So the teachers didn't hardly have to do anything. They've got enough on their mind. We didn't want to add to that. And we created Scioto Brush Creek Day. And basically, one of the things we do to get ready for Scioto Brush Creek Day is we send a volunteer educator, AKA my wife, Jody, who was a professional environmental educator for many years. We send her and a couple other folks into the classroom to introduce watershed concepts, water quality concepts to these kids long before they ever make the trip out to the creek. And the thing that they do here is called as a project or a program called We All Live Downstream. Have you heard of that one? And so every kid gets a piece of paper, and they're told that they have a piece of land along the creek, and they're to draw whatever they want to do with their land. Maybe they want to make a farm or a factory, or they want to build a new home or whatever. They let their imagination run wild. And then they'll put them all on the floor, but sometimes they put them up on the wall, and they link them all together to see that what they do with their section of the creek impacts the people directly downstream. And they have start having this in-depth discussion, this back and forth about, well, I need that creek. My cattle have to have something to drink. And then the guy downstream explains that, yeah, but when your cattle walk out and poop in the creek, that degrades the water that I need for my operation. And it kind of reminds me of a joke where somebody told me they were in a restroom in Portsmouth years ago, in a men's restroom, and someone wrote on the wall, "Flush twice, Cincinnati needs the water." And he thought that was so hilarious until he was in a restroom upstream from Portsmouth and it said, "Flush twice, Portsmouth needs the water." Then it became a little more serious. So we get them ready by going into the classroom. Then we bring them out for the whole day. So all of the Northwest fifth graders, and we've alternated, sometimes fifth grade, sometimes sixth grade, depending on various things that are going on. And we set up typically 6 different learning stations. And one of these is the stream quality monitoring station. And I'm sure most of you you've probably done this 1,000 times. But basically, you go out into the water and you systematically collect these invertebrates and you try to identify them and categorize them. And based on various categories they fall into, you can make some rough approximations of what the water quality is. You don't need high-tech lab equipment because we know what species can tolerate pollution and what species can't. So whatever is living there will tell you how badly polluted the stream is. And as you can see, this is one that the kids love. They just love getting in the water. And we provide the boots. They don't always fit. You can see they're preoccupied with holding them up so that they don't fall down. We also do a fish ecology station, and I should have mentioned, what the slide did, but I should have called it out, the fact that the Department of Natural Resources is a huge help with this. They often send people every year to help. And the fish ecology station is one example that the Division of Wildlife comes. They set up their electrofishing unit. You can't see it here, but there's a cable that comes off of this net. And it's going way off screen here to a generator, a special generator, and it puts a current of electricity into the water. It stuns the fish so that they can't swim. They actually kind of swim in an arc, and then they can scoop them up in a net and put them in a container. About 95% of them or 98% of them are not harmed. There is a little bit of mortality, but not a lot. They're put in a big aquarium and then taken out individually and put in these small boxes that kids can hold up and see. They can see how a fish moves its fins and how it works its gills and the different parts of its anatomy that they can use to identify different species. And it's a really unique experience, electrofishing and fish ecology. It's one of their favorite stations. Another one is hydrology. Have any of you ever seen a stream table like this work? Oh, they're such a great tool. It's basically just a tray with a bunch of sand in it, and it's got the opportunity to put water in one end and let it drain out the other. And as the water flows through the sand, you can observe all the same things you can observe on even a giant river like the Ohio River. You can see how there's cutting on the outside of a bend and how there's deposition on the inside of a bend and how deltas are formed and how if you put things like trees on the bank and these little sponges here, little pieces of sponge act as little fake trees. Put trees on the bank, it helps hold the bank in place so that it doesn't wash away. Or if you build your house too close to the river on the outside of the bend, guess what's going to happen? So they can start this and stop it and run it multiple times, and the kids can put their houses where they want them or their fishing docks where they want them and then turn on the water and see what happens. Then they can back up and try again. It's a great opportunity for them to learn about hydrology. You can see the water actually flowing through the system. I need to get a video of this. It's much more impressive than a still photo. We always have a station on terrestrial wildlife just because kids love animals and getting to hold and handle live snakes and see that various kinds of animals that not only just not live in the water, but up in the uplands is important as well. That's usually done by Ohio State Parks. The Ohio Division of Parks and Watercraft will often come out and do a section on water and boating safety because we figure that if we are encouraging children to feel good about the stream in their backyard, they shouldn't be afraid of it, but they should be safe. And this program teaches them how to do that, not only from a boat, but from the bank. You know, if you're there fishing and you're 10 years old and your buddy falls in the creek, what are you going to do to help him? And they're taught that, you can even just throw them a basketball, and that can help keep them afloat. So there's different ways that they learn how to be safe around the stream. Awareness. So we not only talk about education, but we focus on awareness. And we do that in a variety of ways. We hold annual membership meetings. And these might only have 20 people show up. They might have 70 people show up. It just really depends. We usually have a guest speaker that comes in. We update the group. We elect new officers. And we always have lots of really good food. We do newsletter mailings. We put out a quarterly printed newsletter. If any of you have ever been involved with printing anything quarterly, it's a lot of work. And we do it the old-fashioned way. We literally fold them up and stuff them in envelopes and put stamps on them and mail them out that way. So it's a lot of work. But it gets everybody together, and it gives them a chance to become more aware and involved. We also go to local festivals. So we have this trailer full of stuff, and we drag the trailer around, and we set up aquariums and all kinds of things, but the aquariums are the big hit. We collect fish from the streams, we put them in the aquariums so that people can observe them up close. A lot of people are used to seeing tropical fish, but they're not used to seeing native fish. And sometimes they're blown away that we have native fish that look like tropical fish. Have you ever seen a rainbow darter in a stream in late February or mid-March when they're full of color? Or the orange throat darters? They just look like something out of the movie, what is it? Keep on Swimming, what's that? Finding Nemo? Yeah, all those colorful fish. But they're right here in our local streams. A couple of years ago, we applied for a grant, and we were awarded that grant. And we built a paved, handicap-accessible pathway. It's about a half a mile long that goes throughout 2 different parks and connects these 2 parks along the stream. So if you go to the village of Otway, there's this little tiny park called the Otway Covered Bridge Park. That's where we have our Scioto Brush Creek Day. And then about a half a mile away is the Brush Creek Township Community Park. And if you take your family to one of those and you want to go to the other one, you had to walk out on this state highway where there's traffic, and it just wasn't good. So we actually got a grant to build this pathway, and it goes down under State Route 348 because there's a bridge there. And now you can walk, or your children can ride their bike from one park to the other. And while you're doing so, you're right along the stream, and you're being exposed to that riparian corridor type habitat. You're getting greater access to the stream, and that's creating more awareness. A lot of people just don't know much about their streams because there's nowhere they can go to access them. And I always equate this to, it's like an expressway. If an expressway is built through the city of Columbus, right through the middle of town, and there's no on-ramps or off-ramps, that highway doesn't serve the city of Columbus. It's just a barrier for the people who live on one side to try to get to the other side. And that's what a creek is, or a river is. It's a barrier. You got to find a bridge so you can get across and get to your friend's house or whatever. But if there's access points to that stream, suddenly it becomes an asset. You can go fishing. You can take your kids wading or swimming. You can launch your canoe at one spot and take out at another spot. So access to streams is just as important as access to freeways or highways. We try to encourage involvement. We always have lots of good food at our events, and that seems to really be something that people can come together around. It's, we've been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years, right? It's part of our culture. We get them involved doing work. We plant trees. This is a really old photo here. That's me. This guy's passed on now. This whole area along the creek is now forested in trees that are like 40 feet tall, and this big around. It's really cool to watch them grow. And that's where the paved pathway goes now through that area. So So we do all kinds of things. We plant trees. We do a lot of cleanups. We adopted a section of highway. You've all heard of the Adopt a Highway program. We adopted a section that's right parallel to the creek so that not only are we helping the stream by keeping the litter out of the stream, but we've always got these things in the back of our mind. And one of the things was, well, our sign's going to be there, and it's going to say, Adopt a Highway, Friends of Scioto Brush Creek. And every time people drive by here, they'll know it's us that's doing this. We consciously wanted to do things where we were seen, but we were not being seen as a threat. We're not stirring up trouble in the community. We weren't advocating for things that were, controversial. We were just out there doing good work for the stream and for the community year after year after year. We also do creek cleanups where we get a flotilla of about 16 canoes and 32 volunteers, more than that if you bring your own canoe. And we pick up everything we can find along a section of the creek. It's usually about a 3-mile section. We've been doing this for about 17 years now. I added all this up and I've lost track, but I think we're somewhere north of 600 tons of material that we have removed from the stream now. Tractor tires, washing machines, motorcycles, bowling balls, kiddie pools. We find 3 or 4 kiddie pools every year. We used to have this special, my wife, she's so creative. She got this hard hat and she glued all this weird stuff on it. And it was called the Litter Getter Award. And whoever found the oddest object got to wear this weird hat for the rest of the day. So I won it one time because I found a full, complete, undamaged set of dentures in their case. Someone lost something valuable there, didn't they? We also get people involved by presenting them with recognition. We give away a Best Friend Award every year in the form of a miniature paddle with a plaque on it, recognizing the work that they did in the watershed or for the local communities that have to do with water quality. And you never know how these things spin off, right? So imagine a few years before, we're just a handful of people, eating cookies in the back of a room after another nature meeting. Someone says we should do something about Scioto Brush Creek. Well, next thing you know, we're picking up trash, and then we're doing cleanups on the creek, and then we're doing these educational things for kids. And then we're trying to recognize people for doing that. But things spin off. And these 3 people here in the lower right, or these 4 people in the lower right-hand corner, I'd like to call them out for a minute because Norval Davis, this guy, we used to have all of our educational events here, basically right underneath the Otway Covered Bridge. That's where the kids came to do all their events. And Norval kept looking at that bridge every year, and he would point up at the arches. This is a big arch that runs through here like this. And he would say, Martin, look up there. See the top of that arch? That's flattening out. That whole thing's structurally unstable. It's going to fall in the creek, and we got to do something to save this bridge. And it was the last covered bridge in Scioto County. And he just wouldn't let go. He was like a bulldog. And he went to the county engineer's office like weekly and pestered the hell out of him. And finally, the engineer, I think, just to get Norval out of the way, applied for a grant and got a grant, and they completely restored the Otway Covered Bridge. And now it's become an asset to the community. It's not only a better backdrop for our event, but it's become a great asset to the community. In fact, the Otway Historical Society, which had become defunct, Norval stood that back up, got its 501c3 active again, and helped raise the money to provide the match for the grant. And now that organization decorates this whole bridge and whole area in Christmas lights every year. And you can go and drive through the bridge at night and have cookies, and they have music. And it's like it's this whole sort of unknown thing that just happened as a result of people feeling good about their river. Let's see here. Sam and Thelma Shirey, these 2 folks are farmers in the watershed. Well, they're retired farmers now. They got involved with our group, and boy, are they go-getters. They're just so dedicated. they decided that it would be a good idea to take some vacant township land along the creek and turn it into a public park. And in rural southern Ohio, these things just don't happen. In townships, they barely have enough money to put gravel on the township roads. They don't have money for parks. The Friends stepped in and acted as a fiduciary agent. We helped raise money because the township's attorney told them that they could not raise money. So we raised the money. We wrote grants. And we helped provide labor, and we created a park. And that would not have happened without Sam and Thelma Shirey right here. These folks are great. Again, it's a totally unpredictable thing that just happened along the creek because people were starting to feel good about it. Gotta watch my time here. I tend to talk a lot. Okay, moving right along. Shannon Browning came to Scioto Brush Creek Day as a 5th grader. She would come and help pick up trash. She got ready to go to college, and our group said, you know what? We should help Shannon. You know, her family doesn't have a lot. Let's give her a little scholarship. So we gave her like $1,000 scholarship to go to school. And she appreciated it greatly. And in fact, she appreciated it so much, she said, well, why don't we give a scholarship every year? So she started the scholarship program, and now we do it every year. And we've given away thousands of dollars. And Shannon is on our board. She's actually acting as vice president this year. She's the youngest person on our board. So again, another one of those things we just did not know would happen. We're also involved in land protection now. We own over 340 acres in the watershed that's managed almost entirely just for the protection of these ephemeral streams. And these little streams, these little tiny streams, this is actually Scioto Brush Creek near its origin. It's just a trickle, but it probably has a dozen species of fish that live in it. Recently, we acquired a 6-acre tract at auction. This piece right along the creek was coming up for auction. On the left bank is Scioto Brush Creek State Nature Preserve, owned and managed by ODNR. This section of the creek is tremendously important. Tons of rare species. Hellbenders, federally listed Virginia spirea, 3 different federally listed mussels, several state-listed species of rare plants, and this bank was going up for auction. And many, many years ago, you can see it, there's like a little road here. A guy put in a road and had a fishing camp, and it was just kind of eroded and not nice, but it's healed over. And we knew that ODNR couldn't go to auctions and buy things quickly, so we went and bought it. And then we wrote ODNR a letter and said, hey, we bought this, and we think it would be great for it to be part of the nature preserve. If you ever want to buy it from us, we can get our money back and we can keep doing good work. And so they did. We just recently sold it to them. Here's another angle looking upstream. So this is off of Tapman Cove Road. Who was I talking to about Tapman Cove Road? Somebody here has a place on Tapman Cove earlier. Maybe they stepped out. So the nature preserve, back up. The nature preserve is over here. Tons of wildflowers. The land that we bought and sold to ODNR is right over here. And this area right here is the deepest part of Scioto Brush Creek. A fellow told me once, he said, they tell me that that's the deepest hole of water on this creek. And it's 30 feet deep. And I said, no way. I've paddled every mile of this creek with a tape measure, and I've measured a lot of places, and none of them are over 16 feet. He goes, well, they tell me it's 30 feet deep. So I put my canoe on there and went out with a tape measure, and it was 26 and a half feet deep. It's a unique geological formation. The stream comes down and comes over a little ledge underwater. It creates sort of an underwater waterfall. And at the base of a waterfall, it scours, and it keeps the bottom of the creek scoured out all the time. There's a similar phenomenon on Ohio Brush Creek. It's called the Brush Creek Swirl, if you've ever heard of that. All right, cranking right along here. We're also helping to protect rare species. I mentioned the hellbender, lovely salamanders, the largest salamander in North America. I think they look like a piece of liver with legs, but. And we reached a huge milestone this past November because Scioto Brush Creek was officially designated as the 17th State Scenic River in Ohio. We were excited. Governor DeWine came down. We had a big signing ceremony. Over 100 people showed up, mostly local folks from the community. The covered bridge was the backdrop to the whole thing. It was a wonderful day. So think back now. Think back to when you were young, those streams that you waded around in. And if I've been preaching really good, you're probably starting to think, maybe I should get involved somewhere. Maybe I should become involved in river conservation. Think back to the good times you had as a child in a stream. And if you aren't passionate enough about that stream, who's gonna be? You know, somebody that just moved in last year? Think about that. What's going to be the first step in your journey to conserve a stream near you? Is it going to be something as simple as ours, or we just said, hey, let's just go pick up trash? And then it grew almost organically. And another question, what do you really want your stream to be? Do you want it to be like Mill Creek was back in the 70s and 80s? Remember this picture? Hope, this picture's been around forever. I love the ladies' t-shirt, Mill Creek Yacht Club. And on the right is Scioto Brush Creek, where we're doing a creek cleanup that day. We happened to do a section where it was so clean we could hardly find any trash to pick up that day. So what do you want your stream to be? Because it's decisions that you make as people that live in your watershed, whatever it is, that determines what happens out on these landscapes. It doesn't just sort of happen on its own. It's because people like you get involved and do something. What do you want yours to be? Thank you. Anybody have any questions for me?
And if you have questions, I have a mic so that you don't have to scream, unless you like screaming.
What do you do when you're on your days that you're working in the canoes and there's a big tree down or something?
I don't have to repeat the question because everybody heard. That's great. We got 2 mics. 2 things. I usually go out either by myself or with someone else a few days prior and pre-float the creek to make sure that we don't have any big surprises like that. And sometimes we have. If we know about the surprise in advance, we can go out with chainsaws and some work and clear it, which can be kind of dangerous depending on the depth and flow of the water. But usually it just involves flagging it and then paddling upstream 100 yards and flagging another spot. And then at our safety meeting before we all start out, we'll say, okay, now about a mile downstream, you're going to see a flag. When you see that, you're going to want to exit river left so we can get around this dangerous tree, you know. So we sort of put out signposts ahead of time. And then when we do the float, we have a lead canoe and what we call a sweep canoe, or the rear canoe. We have radios and whistles. And the lead canoe, I'm usually in the lead canoe, and I don't pick up a whole lot of trash. I'm looking for hazards, and when I see one, sometimes I'll get out and help each canoe get through one at a time, and then we all sort of leapfrog. But sometimes you can avoid them, sometimes you can clear them, sometimes you just have to portage around them. That was an easy one. Yes?
I saw some of the smaller fish and things like that.
Yes.
Are there game fish?
Oh, yes.
I see, looks like northern pike.
A relative, the Ohio muskellunge.
The muskie.
Yes.
Muskie.
Native muskie. Some of our muskie in Ohio, well, most fishermen who are fishing for muskie in Ohio go to lakes where they've been stocked, and they don't realize that there are a handful of streams in Ohio that have original native breeding populations of muskie, and Scioto Brush is one of those. And we often don't talk about it a lot. Some members of our group would probably shoot me to even know that I'm talking about it now, but they're there. We know we can't stop people from catching them, but what we're trying to do now is educate people more on catch and release instead of eating them. And even more importantly, catching them the right way, because these are big fish. You saw the mount of the one in the photo with the kids holding it. And the reason they're holding the kid in the background is because they said, well, that fish is almost as long as you, Billy. And so they're holding him out, and another kid's acting like he's going to eat him. But when you take a fish that is 50 inches long, and I've seen 2 50-inchers come out of that stream. That's a big fish. You haul it up out of the water and go like this for a picture. And you just took a 20 or 30-pound fish out of its environment where it's been weightless for not only its entire life, but for millions of years. That species has been weightless. And you just hoisted it into an environment where it has weight. And when you see these guys holding these fish up like this, and their back is making this U shape, it's so sad because it's hard on their fragile spine. So what we're doing now is we don't promote the fact that they're there, but when people ask and we talk about it, we talk about how important it is to treat them carefully and get them back into the water as soon as possible, because they're a top predator. So it's like hunting mountain lions or tigers or grizzly bears. There's opportunities for those, and there's ways that you can do that in an environmentally sound manner, but it's very sensitive when you start taking the top predator out of a system. And Ohio muskellunge is the top predator in Scioto Brush Creek. We've got one way in the back.
She just wants me to get my exercise.
Get your steps in.
Yep, thanks, Deb. So with the hellbenders,
Yes.
Were they reintroduced into Scioto Brush, or?
They've always been there. Ralph Finkston, some of you may know Ralph. He's passed now, I believe, but he was like the king of salamanders in Ohio and hellbenders. He did a big study in the 80s. There were still several locations on Scioto Brush Creek where hellbenders occurred in the 80s, but when that study was recreated in the 2000s, they could only find hellbenders in one section of the creek, and that was at the Nature Preserve. where we showed photos where we helped buy the opposite bank for ODNR. And so they have reintroduced some juvenile hellbenders to Scioto Brush Creek to try to get the population to rebound. But it does have, or has had, a native population. They get really big too. They can get like 24 inches long. So, yeah, they're fascinating creatures. And the males will fight each other when it's breeding season, you know, and they paw and they bite at each other, and it's very common to catch a male hellbender and all of his toes are bitten off in the fights that they have, but they seem to get along just fine. I like the Catch the Water shirt, by the way.
Thanks. So can you tell us about one of the biggest challenges you had in this effort with people?
Yes.
And what you did about it?
Okay, the first story that comes to mind is Scioto Brush Creek basically had no wastewater treatment facilities in the entire watershed. Everybody was on a home septic system. It was one small package plant at the local school, Northwest School, and there was a package plant at the General Electric test engine test facility near Peebles. But you haven't heard of this, it's like NASA in Appalachia. It's where they test jet engines. It's North America's most advanced test facility. Anyway, they had a package plant for their employees. But other than that, everybody in the watershed, they just had septic tanks, and a lot of them were failing, depending on the soil type. The EPA came in and did a TMDL study of the whole stream. That's a big fancy acronym for lots of stuff, total maximum daily load. They determined that the chief pollutant to Scioto Brush Creek was bacterial loads, and the high bacterial loads were immediately downstream from all three villages of Otway, Reardon, and McDermott. So concentrations of people on home septic systems, it was failing, contaminating the creek. So there was an engineering firm out there somewhere, you know, they read these things and they realize, hey, these towns are failing. We can get grant money to build them a waste facility, and we can do it all for free. They just have to maintain it once it's built, which sounds really good, and it is good, as long as it's planned properly and the locals aren't saddled with these gigantic bills later. Long story short, when that village of Otway was going through that process, they were having these public meetings, and the whole village was turning out and saying, no, we don't want this. Mostly because they couldn't afford to pay the wastewater treatment bill. It was going to be another $30 or $40 on their monthly budget, and there's a lot of poverty in this area. They just couldn't afford it. So the villages were turning out, the residents were turning out saying no. The Friends of Scioto Brush Creek were the only people that showed up to speak out in favor of it. In fact, it was usually just my wife and myself. And of course, I knew all these people. I didn't live in that village, but I lived in the next village down the road, and I'd known all these people my whole life, and so it wasn't like I was a threat. But nobody there wanted it, and here we're the only voice. And our position was, look, we don't know the finances. We don't know how this is going to be planned. We don't know how much you're going to be charged. We hope it's something that you can afford. All we're here to say is, as far as the stream is concerned, the data shows there's high bacteria loads downstream from your village, and this is a way to fix it. And you know, the council went forward and did that anyway, even though their entire constituency said they did not want it, which was mind-blowing, just mind-blowing. It's still controversial in that town when you go there. People were upset that you have to pay these monthly bills, and they were upset that people were coming onto their property and digging holes and putting in the facilities on their own private land because the council voted to do it. But so far, so good. It's working out.
One more question.
Yeah, I've gone really long here. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm amazed at the work that you're doing, and I just don't see how these people can get these giant tires that have water in them into the canoe. But once you get all of this debris out of the water, and it's one thing to bag up all the trash and be able to throw it in the back of a pickup truck and take it, but
Yep.
who actually comes and gets these large items, heavy items that there's just no way you yourself would be able to do?
That's a great question, because you can't get rid of a tractor tire just anywhere, any tires. And we normally get anywhere between 25 and 35 tires on a normal sweep, plus about a ton of trash. So around 24 to 35 tires and a ton of trash. So we have a partnership with the local solid waste management district, and we notify them in advance of what we're doing and where we're going and where we're going to stage the trash. And anywhere we can get out near the creek, like at a bridge, we'll stage trash there. Then we all get back in the canoes and go do another stretch and stage trash there. And then the solid waste management district comes around and picks up all that stuff. And they recycle the scrap metal. They take the tires to a tire facility, and some of those can sometimes get recycled, shredded. And then the unusable stuff just goes to the landfill. So it takes a little coordination, but it's entirely possible. And I know I've gone way over the time. It's supposed to be under an hour, and I apologize. But I just want to leave you with this one thing. I know I hit on this at the beginning, but I don't care what the issue is. I don't care whether it's some piece of federal legislation or some little thing going on in your town. When you get out of bed in the morning, just take that one step. Do that one thing. Don't become overwhelmed. Don't say, well, my letter's not going to matter. When I call my senator and leave a voicemail, he's never going to hear it. That may be true, but you know what? If 1,000 people do that, he's probably going to get a message. So don't give up. Keep doing your part. Be that ant, carrying that little sand grain, building that ant mound, because even though our little thing is just one tiny little watershed, we still feel like we're contributing to the overall health of the Scioto River watershed, lower Scioto River, the Ohio River, and indirectly through the Gulf of Mexico. Because the trash we're picking up is not winding up in that great big garbage patch. So thank you all.
Real quick commercial, please look at our next two events coming up. And if you are interested in possibly giving a donation to Scioto Brush Creek, there is information in the back on the table where all the food is that you can revisit after we're done. Thank you for coming.